Good morning. I'm Tricia Paoletta. Welcome to the 6th meeting of the World Radio Communications Conference Advisory Committee, what we call the WAC, the advisory committee to the FCC to prepare for Organization of American States International Telecommunication Commission meetings, or CTEL Commission, or CTEL meetings, which the next one is coming up in a couple months. So welcome. We're getting close. This, of course, is a prep meeting for the World Radio Communications Conference that will take place next fall. So we are getting closer and closer. So we're about a year away, as I noted, and this is time where we're finally getting most of the proposals for the current agenda items done, and we'll also be turning increasingly to proposals for the WRC after the 2023 WRC, the WRC 2027. So I appreciate all the hard work folks are doing. And with that, I will turn over to the Vice Chair, Mr. Brian Tremont. Thanks.
Thanks, Trish. Good morning, everyone. We wanted to begin by introducing some new working group chairs and vice chairs. For Working Group 2, new Vice Chair Dottie Meme from Verizon. Welcome, welcome, and thanks for all the great work. Working Group 3, new chair Giselle Grease from Intelsat, and then Vice Chair Ryan Henry. Welcome, and thanks again for your leadership. Working Group 4, Steve Baruch from New Wave Spectrum for GPSIA, and a new Vice Chair and Alex Epstein from Amazon. So we really appreciate the new leadership, people being able to take on these roles, at times thankless roles, and getting us making progress here for the WAC. And thanks again. I believe I am now turning it over to our esteemed leader, Mr. Sullivan, from the FCC, to give opening remarks.
Thank you, Brian. And as Patricia noted, we are almost one year away from the start of the WRC in Dubai, and CPM is just around the corner. You have all been very hard at work, as evidenced by the fact that the WAC has already produced a significant number of proposals for the WRC-23 agenda at this meeting, and that's going to pave the way for successful U.S. leadership, both regionally at CTEL and internationally at the ITU. Today's meeting includes some topics that will be presented with separate views. While we don't expect that it will be easy to reach consensus on these difficult items, I strongly encourage and challenge you to look for common ground. The United States of America stands a much better chance at success internationally when we present a clear, consistent, and united message abroad. Finally, as the issues and discussions get more complex, we depend on you, the WAC members, for guidance and support. I am confident that the views and recommendations presented by the WAC today will form the basis for our U.S. proposals at the upcoming CTEL meeting in November. My staff and I at the FCC are steadfast in our support of the consumer and industry needs that we represent, both domestically and internationally, and we thank you for your hard work to date and the more difficult work to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Sullivan, for those words of encouragement and support. We know how hard you and your staff work to pull all these things together. It's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of different fora. So we definitely appreciate the support from the International Bureau. And we're going to work hard to get those common views across the desk to get to you to make your job a little easier. So with that, I'm going to seek approval of the agenda, which is document number 48. I have a siren in the background. I apologize, being in this urban environment. I will note that we are going to take discussion of IWG3 and IWG4 out of numeric order. So we will be discussing IWG1 and then IWG2 documents, then IWG4 and then 3. But with that change, and this is the document that is already, the agenda that's already up on the screen from the FCC side, I seek approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Anyone will do.
Stankovic from Intel. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Stankovic. All right, with
Bob.
that, I'm sorry.
Do you need
Sorry.
a second?
I do.
Bob Weller from NAB seconds that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Weller. With that, the agenda is approved. Thank you.
Great. With that, I think we're prepared to move on to look at the minutes from our 5th meeting. This is document 49, and I need a motion to approve those minutes from our February 15th meeting.
This is Andy with NCTA. I'll move.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Anybody can help me?
Hi, Brian, Jane Stankiewicz with Intel. I'll be your second.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yep. So those are approved. Thank you. All right, Dante, can you provide a summary on where we are on the FCC side for prep and introduce the revised WAC structure, document 66?
Yes, I'd be happy to, but there is a request for the floor from CTIA.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate it. Okay. Oh, sorry. Sure.
Good morning. This is Michael Mullings from CTIA. I know that we've taken the approval of the agenda. I was lucky to join the Teams link a few minutes early and noted that there were some modifications made to the agenda where there are some additional documents added. Can you all just highlight what those changes were for us? Thank you.
Yeah, so for the discussion under IWG3 on space services, there is an additional document, WAC 2367. And Dante, I might turn to you to provide further clarification on that one.
Sure, be happy to. Thank you very much. So we have a proposal to add a new document to the agenda. This document is based on a document that was being discussed in IWG3. IWG3 did not conclude its work on that, and it was tabled, and certainly I think Giselle can elaborate further if she needs to. However, the proponents of the document would like to include its discussion on the agenda today. And so I would perhaps either leave it to Giselle or I don't know if Lockheed Martin, who from Lockheed is on the call, that if they would like to add anything else. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Mullenix? Oh, and I see, I'm sorry, Scott has his hand up. If you want to go ahead, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add on that. I mean, we certainly can discuss it when we get to it on the agenda, and I think that would suffice for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And well, Mr. Mullenix?
Thank you again for the clarification. As this document is not yet posted to the FCC's website, it will be difficult for us to fully comment on the document. Given that the topic has been well discussed within IWG3, we'll be able to provide some high-level comments, but can't provide detailed comments today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And for others, I believe this is the document discussed at or the issue discussed at IWG3 on lunar and cislunar communications. So, but yeah, we will discuss it in more depth when we get to that place in the agenda. But thank you for your questions. So others are also more educated on that, Mr. Mullenix, and thanks, Scott, for your clarification. So I guess we'll go back to Dante to provide the summary of work prep.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. With regards to the FCC update on WRC-23 preparations, again, just to echo the thanks to our new chairs and vice chairs for the various IWG posts. It is greatly appreciated, and would like to thank them for their commitment and leadership on these items under their purview in the IWGs. With regards to the FCC update, as we are now nearing the CTEL PCC2 meeting that is scheduled to begin at the end of October here soon, our plan is to take the WAC recommendations that are considered and sent forward at the conclusion of this meeting to put them on a FCC public notice for a 2-week comment period. The public can review, provide comments on those WAC document recommendations. Once that 2-week period is concluded, we will take into account those comments that have been filed as part of the comment period process and public notice process. And we will certainly take those into account and when we enter reconciliation with NTIA and State Department. So the intent would be to reconcile those public notice comments along with any comments or proposals that may be coming from the federal agencies and with an objective to get a approved U.S. proposal to the CTEL meeting in October. So that is going to happen between essentially now and the deadline for the submission of documents to CTEL, which will be in about the mid-October timeframe. So we'll be working very hard to get all of that completed in the time we have there. Just to give you again another update, for those of you that are not aware, the ITU did announce that the WRC will be held in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So start planning your ticket soon. I don't know. It will be a very as it was said, it's just a year away, but time flies, and certainly please be aware of that. We do have again another WAC cycle plan. We'll get into the specific timeframes for that next WAC cycle towards the end of the agenda under the timeline document 65. So certainly we can consider any questions with regards to our planned efforts after this WAC meeting. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. I think we now turn to NTIA and Mr. Charles Glass for an update on NTIA preparations.
Thank you very much. So as you can see on your agenda, we've sent over a few letters to try and reconcile views with respect to several agenda items. We are hopeful that these have been well considered. We believe the agenda items at least have been well considered. We are looking forward to reconciling multiple proposals for the upcoming CTEL meeting. And we look forward to what is approved out of today. I expect that we will have more proposals coming out in the near future. Of course, that will be too late for the October meeting. But I would expect that the WAC should expect a very large set of proposals coming from NTIA in preparation for the limit meeting in May. So there will be a lot of proposals coming out of the RCS between now and the next WAC meeting. Thank you.
Dante, did I see you wanted to come back in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I didn't introduce document 66, and I apologize. I don't know if I could take that after, if there are any comments to Mr. Glass's remarks.
Any follow-up for Charles? Okay, Dante, why don't we knock yours out and then we'll come back to 50 and 51.
Okay, thanks for that. So if Alan, if you could display document 66, please. This is the WAC structure document. So this is just an update to our advisory committee structure, and it's mainly to just reflect the inclusion of our new chairs and vice chairs in IWG2. If you can scroll down to that, IWG2, where we had Daudeline Mame added from Verizon as the vice chair for IWG2. As was said earlier, the chairs, IWG3, we have Ryan Henry from SCS, and Giselle also, she moved over from IWG4 to chair IWG3, and then under IWG4, we have Steve Baruch and Alex Epstein, both brand new and to the group, but also welcome their experience there. So that's all I would like to mention on this document. Thank you.
Any questions for Dante on that? Great, very good. Charles, we don't need to adopt that document, right, Dante? It's just a informational reference.
It's just for everyone's information. Thank you.
Just want to make sure. Okay, Charles, 50 and 51.
Yes, so, document 50 addresses agenda item 1.7, 1.17, agenda item 7, topic D. And if you scroll down a little bit, it also addresses so 1.6, you can see there, and if you scroll down to the proposal itself, won't worry about the background part of it. So in here, well, you go up a little bit. So we are proposing in 1.6 to support suborbital vehicles. And we are doing that through the resolution. And if you go on to the next one. Going. A little bit more. So we have 1.7, new allocation for aeronautical mobile service. If you go down to the proposal. So we want to support a new primary AMRS allocation for this one. And we have the appropriate mods for this. So if you scroll to the next proposal. So this is agenda item 1.10. And if you go down to the proposal itself. So these are no change proposal for 1.10, which is the accept aeronautical mobile proposal at 15 and 24. Next proposal, 117. And you go down to the proposal itself. So that's also for no change in this particular agenda item. And then we have agenda item 7, topic D. And we are proposing changes there in the appropriate article to support that particular agenda. And that's all in document 50. So we look forward to reconciling these and the WAC views with respect to these.
Any questions on that one? Okay, and then document 51 as well.
So 51 slightly shorter, although probably of much higher interest because it addresses agenda item 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.4. So if you go down to the proposals, so agenda item 1.1, of course, is mobile broadband in 4880 to 4900, or 4800 to 4990. And here we're proposing a mod to 5.441B. If you go down to the next agenda item. Agenda item 1.2, we have a proposal for no change to the 3 gigahertz band and the 10 gigahertz band. The studies in these cases identified large separation distances as being required. And based on those large separation distances, it was felt that no change was the best approach. And if you go to the next agenda item. And keep going. So 1.8. So this is about Res 155. Here we're proposing a mod. So 5.484B. And if you go down, you can see a mod to the resolution. And if you go to the next, I think we have a hand as well. So, and the last one's a proposal for agenda item 4. And this is on the dissemination of time. We believe that this is also a very important proposal given the political difficulties that this issue has called. We believe that this is a rather elegant solution to the problem, calling for continued cooperation among the appropriate bodies and would allow this issue to be put to bed at this conference. So that's document 51.
Great, thank you. And as you noted, we do have a question from John Madigan. John? John, do you have a question or? It might be an inadvertent hand up. Any other questions from the group on document 51? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Glass. We appreciate it very much. Hard work that went into those proposals. And I now turn it over to Ms. Pialetta.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Charles, for the heads up that we have a lot of work coming your way or coming our way from NTIA for the next cycle. We'll get ready.
And Tricia, one thing that I would add,
Yes.
particular focus that we've started working on now is agenda item 10, future conference agenda items. We're approaching that in 2 stages primarily at this point. The first is a review of the existing agenda items. So the 13 preliminary agenda items, and then we are also looking at the development of new agenda items. We're trying to limit that to the extent possible, given the workload we already potentially have. But we would appreciate being able to reconcile that with the FCC and with the WAC members as quickly as possible. We believe that there will be a need, I believe, to submit some in May because there will be some of high importance for the US at that point so that we can sell those. So I would expect that you will see some for agenda item 10 as early as the next few months.
Well, thank you for that additional heads up. And for those who are less expert in this area, as I noted earlier, the agenda for the future work is developed at a current work, but it is tentative. And the agenda developed for the next work, 27, it was very, very full, chock full of lots of interesting ideas, but it would have to be reconfirmed or might be amended by different regions and countries' proposals. So that's what Mr. Glass is referring to. So we have a lot of work to do on the work 27 agenda that CTEL and first US, then CTEL would propose. So thank you for that heads up. Yep, we have a lot of work there and we'll be prepared. All right, now we will turn to the informal working group number 1 on maritime, aeronautical, and radar services. And we will turn to its chair, Mr. Ladson, for a status report.
Thank you, Tricia. First, can everyone hear me? Hello?
You were breaking up a little bit, but let's hear you now.
Sorry about this, everyone. We're here in Dunedin.
It looks like you're muted on your end, Damon, from the icon.
You will show as being muted because you're using my computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're sitting here in a conference room in Geneva, and the Wi-Fi is not that great, so we keep getting interruptions. So now I'm using Joe Chowdelli's computer, and I will get into IWG1. First of all, we've had 3 meetings since the last advisory committee. We produced 4 proposals on a number of our items and 1 view. So if you like, I can start going through the proposals, starting with document 52.
Yeah, first, does anybody have any questions on the brief report? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Yeah, please proceed to your first item, 1.6.
Okay, so this is document 52. It's agenda item 1.6, which is on suborbital vehicles. And whoever's controlling the screen, if you could please go to the proposal. Okay, thank you. So similar to the NTIA proposal, we're proposing a resolution that would give the conditions under which suborbital vehicles can use radio communication services. And that's pretty much it for this one. So I present this for your consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Damon. And all right, does anybody have any comment on this preliminary proposal for agenda item 1.6 on suborbital? Seeing none, I believe the WAC has approved this document, so thank you for your work on that. And if you could proceed to your next agenda item 1.7.
Okay, agenda item 1.7, it's document 53. This concerns an allocation for VHF AMSRS. And our proposal, as you see on the screen, is for an allocation in the 117.975 to 136 megahertz band. And that would be for voice only. And I present document 53.
Are there any comments or reactions to agenda item 1.7 preliminary proposal?
Tricia, just one thing I should mention again, this is similar to the NTIA proposal.
Oh, thank you for that clarification. All right, seeing no comment, this preliminary proposal is approved as a WAC recommendation. Thank you, Damon. If you can go on to 1.8.
Okay, so agenda item 1.8 concerns unmanned aeronautical systems, and it's document 54. If you go down to the proposal. Just scroll down a bit more to the end of the table where you'll see a modification of footnote 5484B. And also a modification of existing resolution 155. Again, this one is similar to the proposal Charles presented for NTIA. And I give this to you for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Any comment on this preliminary proposal for agenda item 1.8? And document 54. All right, seeing none, the WAC has approved this proposal as well. Thank you. And can you move on to agenda item 1.10, Mr. Ladson?
Okay, so agenda item 1.10, that's on AMS, it's document 55. IWG1 did review this agenda item. I see the screen's blank, but we've offered no comment, so maybe the blank screen is appropriate. So we have no views on this particular agenda item, and this is just to record that for the FCC. So you have document 55.
Okay, thank you for that one as well. And any questions or comments on the non-view, the absence of a proposal for agenda item 1.10? Seeing none, we will move to your final document 56 on agenda item 1.11.
Okay, so document 56 is on agenda item 1.11, which many of us in this room have suffered throughout today, greatly I might add. But this concerns the addition of the new GMDSS satellite provider. In our recommended proposal, we propose no change. The system that's at issue here has not yet been recognized by the IMO as a GMDSS provider. It has not yet identified additional spectrum needs in addition to the 2 GMDSS systems that are already operating. And finally, the system is not coordinated, so it cannot protect existing safety services nor its own safety services. So for that reason, we propose no change. And I present the document to you for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ibarra, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So just to provide some clarity, or perhaps if Mr. Latz could clarify. So I see that this is only for issue C. So there are other elements of agenda item 1.11 that are not addressed by this proposal, only issue C. So the other elements, I assume A and B have yet to be addressed by IWG1, correct? Thank you.
Yeah, right there. Thank you for reminding me, Dante. Yes, so this agenda item and its associated resolution really address 3 different issues. The first 2 have to do with GMDSS modernization. Issue C, which is resolves 3 of the resolution, has to do with the addition of a satellite GMDSS provider. And IWG1 has only considered that issue, and this proposal only addresses that issue. I don't believe we have received anything on the other 2 issues from NTIA, and we have not addressed those ourselves. So thanks for the reminder, Dante.
Thank you, Damon.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification between the 2 of you. So I will ask, are there any questions or comments on this preliminary proposal on issue C under 1.11? Okay, seeing none, the WAC also approves this preliminary proposal. So thank you, Mr. Latson and your vice chair for your hard work on these issues. And I will turn it over to Mr. Tremont.
Thank you, Tricia. I appreciate it. All right, moving on to working group 2 under the able leadership of Ms. Stankiewicz. Take it away, Jane.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. So IWG2 has met 4 times plus numerous offlines over the course of this preparatory cycle before the upcoming WAC meeting. Today we have 4 documents, some of which have multiple views for consideration. So the first document for today is WAC 23, document 57, and this is with respect to agenda item 1.2 for the 3.3 to 3.4 and 3.6 to 3.8 gigahertz bands. And if we could show document 57, all right. So as you can see, we were unable to reach consensus on the proposal despite numerous offline discussions. So there is a view A with respect to both the 3.3 and 3.4 and 3.6 to 3.8 gigahertz band. There is a view B with respect to the 3.6 to 3.8 gigahertz bands only, and a view C with respect to the 3.3 to 3.4 gigahertz bands. There are short descriptions on the cover page of the views, as well as who supports those views. Given the inability to reach consensus, I would expect that we will see additional comments during the public notice period, on these, but we do have a view A, view B, and view C. And as we are unable to reach consensus, we do offer this document for the WAC's consideration. So we can send it up to the FCC and solicit those comments during the public notice period.
Very
So
good.
with that, can we take this document?
All right, yes, thank you. It looks like we do have Scott. Did you want to weigh in here?
Thank you. Lockheed Martin continues to have significant concerns with the View A proposal on the 3300 to 3400 megahertz band. While in View A, the mobile industry advocates for the benefits of mobile broadband, the aerospace and defense industry similarly supports over 2 million jobs across all 50 states, contributes over $396 billion to the U.S. gross domestic product, and exports $126.5 billion in products from the United States. U.S. radar manufacturers have developed advanced radar technologies that rely on the characteristics of the spectrum to provide critical capabilities that support a defined national security mission. And those U.S. manufactured technologies are predicated upon continued access to the existing primary allocation. View C reflects that priority by proposing no change. While Lockheed Martin is listed as the only WAC member supporting View C, Lockheed Martin also happens to be the only radar manufacturer that is a WAC member. View C reflects the concerns of the radar manufacturing industry, and we ask that the FCC take this into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Other comments on either view A, B, or C, or the totality of document 57? Okay, hearing no additional comments, all three will be are approved by the WAC as recommendations and will be forwarded to the full commission. Thank you. So we're going to move on to document 58.
Thank you. So the next document is with respect to agenda item 1.4 on high altitude platform stations. This is a consensus document, and basically it's for a no change to the radio regulations with respect to agenda item 1.4. And with that, we present this document for consideration at the WAC.
Any comments on document 58 for agenda item 1.4? Hearing no comments, the document is approved as a recommendation to the full commission. Moving on to agenda item 1.5.
Thank you. So for agenda item 1.5, if we could just is it document 59? So if we could see document 59. Agenda item 1.5 is with respect to the 470 to 960 megahertz band in region 1. And again, we were unable to reach consensus on the proposal. So we forward two views to the FCC on how to handle the matter. I would note that view A is with incorporates the RCS proposal, and then the view B shows the changes, in-track changes to the RCS proposal. And similarly, since we were unable to reach consensus, this is one that I would also potentially expect comments into the FCC during the public notice period from members and the public. So with that, I'd like to present document 59 for the WAC's consideration on agenda item 1.5.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Weller.
Thank you all. I'm Bob Weller with the National Association of Broadcasters. NAB has been an active member of the WRC Advisory Committee for many years. We regularly seek to reach consensus through the IWG process and appreciate the engagement of all of the entities participating in this document. Unfortunately, we were not able to reach consensus. Agenda item 1.5 concerns the use of and needs for UHF spectrum in the 470 to 960 megahertz band in region 1. This item is highly controversial among Region 1 administrations. It's been clear from instructions to our delegation that the U.S. should remain neutral with respect to this agenda item, except when certain broader issues arise, such as setting a precedent that unallocated services require protection. NAB therefore supported the RCS proposal provided as VUA and introduced by Mr. Glass at the 5th meeting. But we do at this time wish to allow for some additional flexibility within Region 2 by amending the present View A language to strike the underlined knock or hard knock, no change, and replace it with a not underlined or soft knock. The definitions of the hard and soft knock within the conference preparatory guidelines are frankly nebulous, and the lack of clarity resulted in a desire to amend slightly the RCS proposal. Because this realization occurred late in the process, we were not able to make that small adjustment to View A during the IWG meeting cycle. We propose to make that change now at this WAC meeting as an amendment to View A of document 59. NAB moves to strike the underlined hard knock and replace it with a soft knock, not underlined. I have spoken with the other supporters of UA, One Media, Sennheiser, and Shure, and they are all supportive of this amendment. Of course, I will let those members and perhaps others speak for themselves. In all other respects, the View A proposal would remain as written. Thank you.
Okay, we have a bunch of hands up quickly. Trish, Ms. Pioletta first, and then
Sure.
I've got, 5 people in the queue.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Bob, for your work on this, as well as the folks who worked hard on View B. Meta would support that modification of your View A to remove the underlining to make it a soft or more flexible, no change. And so if that modification is approved as one of the views, Meta would support that. So thank you for that.
All right, very good. Prakash Arut, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
No problem. I'm actually in Geneva at ITU where this agenda item has been discussed. And as Bob said, yes, very controversial and a lot of heated discussions happening. Anyway, I fully agree with the change being proposed by Bob. So sure we'll, co-sign this View A, even with this change. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Brandy Sykes.
Hi, thank you very much. Brandy Sykes with Apple Inc. And we would also like to support the modified version of View A. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Daum, Michael Daum.
Michael Daum with Microsoft, and Microsoft would also support View A with the modification that Mr. Weller proposes. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the comment queue? I think I've gotten them all. All right, any additional comments? All right, Ms. Stankiewicz, with that modification. Oh, nope. Dante. I assume
Yes,
I'm
thank you very much,
I'm
Brian.
getting some procedural coaching, I believe here. Go ahead, Mr. Barr.
Yes, thank you. Yes, then we will have to modify the proposal that's been provided for View A. The no change for the View A should not have an underline. And I would just like to confirm that with the previous speakers who supported this particular Mr. Weller, if you could confirm. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That's correct, Dante.
Okay, Alan, if you could just remove the underline then, and we can just save this as a Rev 1 to this document. Thank you.
Soft knock is implemented. All right, so with that, the dual recommendations will be forwarded for consideration as a recommendation of the WAC. And I believe we have one more from Ms. Stankiewicz.
Yes, and the last one is for agenda item 9.1, topic C, and that is in document 56. And this was also a consensus document. And so this one is on the use of IMT for fixed wireless broadband. And we show modifications to the RCS proposal. So it is RCS as the baseline with track changes showing the IWG revisions. And this is a no change and no change, no underline. And this document we present for approval as a consensus document from IWG2.
Very good. Any comments on this one? Very good. It'll be approved. It's approved as a recommendation to forward to the full commission. Any additional questions or comments for informal working group 2?
Brian, if I could just note that we do have some documents that Charles brought up in the NTIA update. We will consider those in the 9th of August letter at our upcoming WAC cycle, as well as any additional documents we receive. And we will also be looking at the agenda item 10, both the review of the existing and the new documents, as Charles suggested. And I just wanted to thank my Vice Chair Dotteling, as well as the members, especially those who participated in many of the numerous offline discussions. As you can see with some of the View A, View B, View C, we were not able to reach consensus, but the discussions were held very professionally, very cordially, and an exchange of information and understanding. So I do appreciate especially those who participated in the offline discussions for, even though we weren't able to reach consensus, for the way those discussions were handled.
Thank you. And yes, kudos to the working group for the time they put in. Anything else on informal working group 2? All right, moving on to informal working group number 4. Mr. Baruch, are you here?
I am indeed.
Very good. I will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you. IWG4 had 4 meetings since the last WAC meeting, and we have produced for you 2 documents, numbers 63 and 64, for consideration here. I will note that both of these documents are responses of our IWG participants to the corresponding proposals that were presented by Mr. Glass from NTIA earlier, and I will explain a little further some nuances with those when the documents are up for introduction. Thank you.
Very good. Any comments on the status report? If not, we'll move to document 63.
Okay, so document 63 is the first of IWG4's proposal documents relating to agenda item 7. That's the regulatory and procedural agenda item for satellites. It is always a very heavy lift at WRCs. So we're starting slowly here. This one is a response, as I indicated, to NTIA's proposal, but it's presented in a little bit of a different format. The subject matter of this, and this is one of what we would consider the easier agenda item 7 topics, was developed into an IAP at the last CTEL meeting. So what we have done in IWG4 after some discussion was to present, take the IAP, the CTEL IAP as the baseline document and introduce our comments, bringing in elements from the NTIA proposal in there, in the expectation that this would be an easier presentation to provide to CTEL if it were to be reconciled and approved. So what you have in this document are the importation of comments from NTIA as well as IWG4. There really wasn't too much additional from IWG4 into this proposal document. So I offer that to you for consideration.
All right, any comment on document 63 on agenda item 7, topic D1? Hearing no comment, the recommendation is approved and will be forwarded to the full commission. Document 64.
Yep, thank you very much. Document 64 is contains the comments of IWG4 on the NTIA proposal under agenda item 4, which is the review of resolutions and recommendations from prior conferences with respect to resolution 655 having to do with the timescale. And what you see in this document, the blue highlighted text elements are proposals from IWG4 for changes or modifications to this document. The reason we highlighted them is because this is a proposal to revise resolution 655, and we wanted to distinguish what we were doing from what NTIA had proposed. The biggest change here, I would say, in this document is the proposal to not include an external organization resolution as an annex to this resolution, but you'll see that as you go through the document. So I offer this to you for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Do we have any comments on this? Okay, hearing none. Approved as a recommendation of the full commission. And any other comments for working group 4, Steve, or from others?
I will just offer, Mr. Chairman, that we start in Geneva here this week with Working Party 4A's final meeting before the CPM, and there will be a lot of work done on agenda item 7 topics. We're up to 12 lettered topics and a number of subtopics, and so you can expect quite a bit more activity from us at the next WAC meeting after this one. Thank you.
Very good. We will look forward to that. Best of luck in Geneva. With that, I turn it over to Madam Chair, Ms. Paoletta, for Working Group 3.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, can we start with the status report from Ms. Creaser, our chair of the Informal Working Group 3 on Space Services?
Sure. Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. So IWG3 met 4 times since the last WAC meeting. You know, and we have 2 documents, 2 consensus documents to present to you today. And just on other documents that we're working on for information, we also had proposals on agenda item 1.16 and 1.17, and a future agenda item 10 as well. But those did not reach consensus. But we do have the 2 documents to present to you today. So I can start on that if you'd like.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one is on agenda item 1.19, and it's WAC document 61. So as I said, this is a consensus document, and agenda item 119 addresses allowing fixed satellite services to operate in the space to Earth direction in the 17.3 to 17.7 gigahertz band in region 2. So as you go through the proposal, you'll see the first modification is to Article 5 to introduce a footnote or modify existing footnotes to allow such use. And such use is already allowed in other regions. And then there's consequential changes, I think, to Article 22 to incorporate the relevant APFD limits in this band in region 2. And there's also subsequent changes to Appendix 30A and Appendix 5. So Appendix 30A is the BSS feeder link plan band, which is also in the 17.3 to 17.8. So there were modifications that were required there to ensure protection of those feeder links from this new FSS service that is proposed to be allowed in the 17.3 to 17.7 gigahertz band. So I think with that, I'll present this to the WAC for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, are there any comments on this proposal on 119? Seeing none, the WAC approves this preliminary proposal. Thank you, Giselle. You want to move to your second consensus document?
So it's document 62. And this is a proposal under agenda item 10, future agenda items. And the proposal addresses the 51.4 to 52.4 gigahertz band, and it's to study the use of this band by NGSO FSS systems for gateway operations. So at the last conference, this band was opened up for GSO FSS. So this proposal or this agenda item would study the use of that same band by the NGSO FSS systems. So with that, I'll present that for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any comments on this proposal for a future agenda item for this 51, 52 gigahertz band of spectrum for NGSO FSS systems? Okay, seeing none, the WAC also approves this preliminary proposal. Thank you. And you have another document that we discussed earlier, right, Ms. Creaser, that would you like to ask the authors to present that, or do you want to present that? This is WAC document 67.
Yes, and I'm happy to let Scott do this. This is it was IWG3 document 42 Rev 4 on agenda item 10, but I'll turn it over to the author who can present it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kotler, please proceed.
Well, thank you very much. During IWG3 this summer, Lockheed Martin submitted a proposal for the future agenda item that you see under WRC-23 agenda item 10. The document has been before IWG3 members for all 4 meetings and for several months. The future agenda item includes studies on spectrum allocations and regulatory provisions for lunar and cislunar communications. It uses the existing regulatory framework that is used today, including for how intersatellite service and space-to-space communications is allocated today. As you can see, the proposal is available from the FCC's ECFS website in the WRC-23 docket as IWG3 document 42 revision 4. The contribution includes a proposed agenda item for WRC 27 and an associated resolution to guide the studies in the ITU. And Lockheed Martin would like to submit the future agenda item proposal discussed in IWG3 to the full WAC for consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kotler. Are there comments or questions on this document? Go ahead, Mr. Mullenix.
Thank you, Tricia. This is Michael Knox from CTIA. As documented in the initial discussions of this document in IWG3, CTIA continues to have concerns with this proposal and do not believe it has been fully developed to address the concerns by WAC members and is not mature enough to be considered as a WAC recommendation. This proposal for a WRC 27 agenda item is quite encompassing, exploring the spectrum use for 5 separate architectures to support lunar communications and could necessitate the need for at least 5 separate agenda items. The proposal calls for new spectrum allocations for lunar service communications, lunar to lunar orbiting satellites, as well as several transmission paths that could have impact on current and future terrestrial systems, which includes transmissions to and from Earth to the moon and lunar orbiting satellites. Through the leadership of the United States, a document was agreed just last week to be sent to the ITUR that begins exploring the concept of operations and spectrum needs to support these operations. Unfortunately, at this time, there's been no basis for the specific candidate bands in this proposal, nor the amount of spectrum needed to support this aspirational use. In addition, the necessary regulatory studies are just now beginning in the ITU, which could accommodate these spectrum usages under its current provisions, or if a new approach needs to be conceived for spectrum use on the moon. We hope to continue these discussions with the proponent of the proposal in order to progress this effort and resolve our outstanding concerns, and ensuring our views are well represented to the WAC in any proposal submitted for the Commission's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullenix. I see Mr. Kotler has was it your hand up, Scott?
Yes, yes, it is.
Oh, please
So,
proceed.
and I do thank CTIA for those comments, but
所以我就 play， 不是弄完这个 meeting。
Okay.
And we'll need
Yeah,
other non-speakers to mute. I heard some background noise. Thanks.
Thank you. And as I indicated, I do thank CTIA for their comments. But as before, as when we were discussing this contribution over multiple meetings in IWG3, no technical objections have yet been made on the document, on the contribution. The only comments were on approach. That would formulate for an alternative view, but that view had been withdrawn prior to the last IWG3 meeting. So, and as I've indicated, as we've discussed multiple times in IWG3, it does use the existing regulatory framework. There's no need to separate the document into multiple parts and make the agenda item complex. Many of the issues that is being sought to be addressed under this agenda item will be addressed similarly in several of the components. And that's why we ask it to be one complete agenda item that addresses the entire set of issues as a single agenda item. And we would like this document to go forward as a recommendation to the FCC. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Alvarez from AT&T.
Great, thank you, Tricia. And just very quickly, I'd just like to align with the comments made by Mike Mullenix from CTIA. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Other comments or questions on the document? Well, and thank you, Mr. Kotler, for that additional procedural history on it. And of course, to Mr. Mullenix for his concerns and those of his members of CTIA. Given that there's not consensus.
There's another view.
I'm
Donna
sorry.
Lang's up. Yeah, there's one more hand up.
Okay, I don't see it. So whoever it is,
Yep.
Go ahead.
Donna Wang.
Oh, Ms. Wang, please go.
Thanks. And Verizon also voiced their concerns during the IWG3 process. And we still believe that a Region 4 should be explored. Thank you.
Do you want to elaborate on that, or I mean the question of whether there should be a new region should be explored?
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, Scott, one more comment, and then I'll wrap this one up.
Yeah. Thank you. And this issue of Region 4 has been brought up multiple times, and yet there have never been a explanation of what the benefits of pursuing a Region 4. That whole approach is the whole basis for why several entities have expressed a reason to not consider the proposal before you and submit it to the FCC. It would be very helpful to understand from Ms. Wang what the benefits she would see in a Region 4 approach. I mean, right now, we don't apply a Region 4 to the inter-satellite service. We do not apply a Region 4 for space-to-space communications. These are space-to-space communications. These include inter-satellite service links. So, and I would really appreciate an understanding from Verizon on what the benefits of pursuing a Region 4. Technically, nobody has provided any comments for what the issues are here, and to study a Region 4 would just delay the issue for another WRC when we don't use it today for many different services that are provided today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cutler. I saw Veena Verwat, GSMA, had her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. You can listen to the discussion about the Region 4 itself tells you that, we really haven't had a full discussion on whether we should have a Region 4 or not. But more importantly, the number of bands included in this. Scott is right, so that the item has been on IWG3 books, at most of the meetings, at least I recall. However, given the complexity of the item and the number of bands ranging from 400 megahertz, as I recall, to millimeter wave bands, it has just not been possible to focus on, whether we can cover all these items in one agenda item, all these issues in one agenda item. So I would suggest, we allow the time for a lot more discussion in the next WAC cycle and see if we can make progress on this agenda item. It's not questioning the need, it's just asking for more time so that we can discuss all the issues involved in this proposal of agenda item. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Verwat. Ms. Aspa Harutsas from Qualcomm.
Thank you very much, Tricia. I just wanted to say that Qualcomm echoes the concerns raised by CTIA and Mr. Molinax.
Okay, thank you, Aspa. And Ms. Dumi from T-Mobile.
Thanks, Tricia. Just to say that the discussions that we're having were the same types of discussions we agreed to continue in IWG3, so we would support having more discussions on this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. I see there's Scott still has hand up. Any other new diverse speakers? Oh, thank you, Scott, for removing that. Well, my position on this is that it is late work. Well, it's 2022. We are supposed to be getting our agenda items for future agenda items together. We don't have much time for that. This is obviously a very important issue, and particularly, the question of Region 4, that's a policy issue. I do think it merits a full public discussion. I think it should be put on the public notice for comment by the FCC, but it's clearly not consensus. So my proposal would be just to forward this to the FCC as a non-consensus document. It's not a WAC recommendation at this point because it's not consensus. It certainly merits discussion, but it is obviously a very interesting and important policy-laden issue, and we need to be getting our agenda item 10 issues together. So I do think it merits discussion. So up I see. Ms. Baum, you want to go ahead and speak?
Thank you, Tricia. And just to speak from the kind of the procedural aspects of addressing this in the WAC today, normally, it's been common practice that we have two views, that go forward when there are differing views. And, certainly we don't have that situation here. And I guess I'm just concerned with this, new approach becoming the new approach on all agenda items. And I would, urge us to proceed cautiously, because I think it's important for all of us to understand how the WAC process works and, what we do when there's a disagreement. And, this is certainly a new approach here. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kim. Any further comment? Well, I see. Mr. Ladson.
Thank you, Tricia. Just to echo the concerns that Kim expressed, and not so much the matter itself, but how are we going to proceed? I think we need state for determining these issues. There's some other instances where what normally is a procedure isn't followed, and I just think we need to make sure things are stable and we know what we're dealing with. So I would support Kim's.
Tricia, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Brian. Jane, I see you have your hand up, and then Pascal.
Similarly, this is, I don't even want to count how many WAC cycles at this point, but it is one procedurally that I haven't seen before, and it will be important for us to understand sort of how we would proceed in issues like this. So just in terms of like process-wise, with respect to this, it is one that I think there would need to be some clarity around how we are handling documents like this. So that, depending on what happens today and how this is handled, we will need to provide some further guidance to the IWG chairs, et cetera, because this is unusual in terms of process.
Yes, I appreciate that. And before I'll reiterate, my proposal was to send it to the FCC as a non-consensus proposal, not a WAC recommendation. This is clearly not consensus, and it merits a lot more discussion. I think it would benefit from a full public comment discussion with all parties, and obviously both WAC members as well as the full public are able to comment on it. But before go, Pascal, could you speak, and then we'll turn to Michael Mullenix. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tricia. I was just going to echo the support, at least the comments that Kim Baum had made earlier, supported by Damon and Jane, and to support, again, perhaps more discussion in a public fashion in the IWG3, where this proposal is being discussed, but you're the chair, so thanks.
Sorry, I'm muted. Michael Mullenix.
Thank you, Tricia. Yes, obviously a bit disappointed that we can't have more conversations within the WAC, because I do believe that this we could get much closer to consensus, but understand your decision. I share your views that additional public comment on this proposal would be extremely helpful. Typically, following the FCC's WAC, there's a very short public notice process, which accommodates the FCC NTIA reconciliation towards CTEL. This proposal obviously needs a bit more conversation and comment than others, because we have not been given the opportunity to provide a view B yet to the commission, because we did not know this proposal would be on the agenda today. So we would ask if the FCC could look for ways which we could provide additional conversation on this topic moving forward, as well as taking into consideration for agenda item 10, the comments that were made by NTIA earlier on the discussion about the need to prioritize future agenda items from the United States, looking at the host of issues that are on the preliminary agenda for WRC-27, the number of discussions we're already starting to have on U.S. proposals for WRC-27, and other proposals that we could expect coming into your next WAC meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds to me, and I'm going to take the bait for a request for any kind of insight from our designated federal officer, Mr. Ibarra, on should this go forward as a non-consensus paper that the FCC would seek public comment on. Would there nonetheless be an opportunity for further discussion within the WAC, during the next cycle? So if you have any views on that at this point, Mr. Ibarra, we'd like to hear them.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So with regards to this, I think it's appropriate for you to consider this document as a non-consensus, but with the understanding it could be forwarded to the commission for consideration. And certainly, if that's the case, we can add it to the public notice package of documents that have also been considered today. With regards to opportunities beyond the public notice comment period, I would encourage parties to try to elaborate any of their issues, provide additional comments to us as part of that public notice. I think going forward, certainly we need to be in some sense flexible with regards to our preparations for WRC, and as such, I will try to work with you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Vice Chair, about how we can be more flexible in that regard, in order to improve our process, but also maintaining a means to keep everything on the level of transparency, so there is a clear awareness of what is done, and so that we do in fact work towards consensus building when developing our recommendations in the committee. So I will certainly reach out to you and Mr. Tremont to see if there are ways we can do that. We're certainly open to, again, as part of this, any other comments that members may provide as part of the public notice that we will be sending out shortly to include that. So certainly welcome those views as well. But I think that at this time, noting the comments and perhaps concerns with this document, that it can be forwarded, but as a non-consensus document. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And I do appreciate its unusual procedural posture, but it is a very interesting issue of great public import. So I am going to seek the approval of the WAC to send this forward as a non-consensus proposal. It is not a WAC recommendation, and encourage people to comment on it during the public comment period, including perhaps to recommend that this be put back to the IWG for further discussion, but knowing that we do have a deadline for getting in proposals for agenda item 10 matters. So with that, I seek the approval of the WAC to send this forward as a non-consensus proposal. All right, I see no current opposition. So with that, I thank you, WAC members, for your appreciation to have a more fulsome public comment and discussion. And with that, I turn it over to Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. And I'm going to now turn it back to Dante to talk about our future meetings and specifically document 65 regarding our preparatory timelines.
This is Scott. I've had my hand raised. I've been just trying to make one comment.
Okay, sure. Let's go back to Scott and then we'll take it to Dante. That's fine.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I do appreciate this being sent as a non-consensus item. We certainly do welcome comments on it. Appreciate the openness of the WAC to consider the advancement of this item and advance the lunar ecosystem. All I ask is when comments are being prepared, that to take into account that this is a first step to moving forward on the lunar communications, and it's an important step to ensuring that studies on spectrum allocations and their associated regulations are undertaken at the ITU. With that, I thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Scott. And now back to Dante for document 65 on the prep timeline.
Yes, thank you, Chair. If Alan, if you can open up 65, please. Yes, thank you. So just to give you a quick summary of the timeline, please review in more detail at your leisure. So we have today, as of course, we have our WAC meeting number 6. If you can quickly scroll through to the end of the year, Alan, you'll see the study group 4 block is meeting this week, starting this week. And as I think Steve Baruch had indicated, there's going to be a lot of activity being developed with regards to agenda item 7, as well as possibly other agenda items under the purview of the study group 4 block. So we can certainly expect to see some further work coming out of the activities here. Scrolling down again, we'll see the Study Group 7 block meeting in October, followed by the Study Group 6 block and Working Party 5D. That all leads up to our upcoming CTEL meeting number 40, that it's in Trinidad and Tobago, starting at the, I think that date is incorrect. I thought I fixed it, but it still says 10/04, but it should be 10/31. It's at the very end of October. The meeting here will, of course, be the next meeting where we will be submitting hopefully reconciled U.S. documents to that meeting. And then moving forward, we'll see towards the end of the year, we have, I think just to note, starting at the end of November, there's the second ITU Interregional Workshop on WRC-23 preparations. I think this is a very interesting workshop. For those of you who can attend, of course, you can attend remotely or in person. And I do believe that the registration for that is open now, so you can sign up. There will be no official U.S. delegation. You can register as an advisor, as a delegate, but there will be no delegation. This is more of a workshop. It's an informative discussion between the regional organizations, and they will be providing perhaps some updates that will certainly be beneficial, I think, for everyone's work in the IWGs. So I would encourage and invite you in this workshop at the end, starting at the end of November. So going into next year, Alan, please. Again, we start up again with the block meetings. You'll see Study Group 6 block. The important dates here to look at are the meeting at the end of March. The CPM 23-2 will be held starting on March 27. That will go for 2 weeks. That will be where we will consider the draft CPM texts that were submitted by the responsible groups. And that will be an opportunity, whatever comes out of that CPM meeting, for us to review. I would encourage everyone to follow that output document. That will be the draft CPM text report that will be coming out from the CPM. That can help, again, facilitate the work of the IDs in preparing proposals for each of those WRC agenda items that they are still working on. And moving down, we have the WAC number 7 meeting. Right now, we're trying to, let's say, strategically schedule the WAC right after the CPM, so we have the benefit of the draft output report from that CPM meeting, but also trying to make sure that we have a timely amount some time is effort. Some time is given to our effort to try to have recommendations in time for the May meeting there, if you see further down in May, meeting 41 for CTEL. And if you notice, the CTEL meeting will be the limit meeting. And for those of you who may not know what that means, the limit meeting in CTEL means that this will be the final opportunity for administrations to submit their WRC proposals on the WRC-23 agenda. So, and there are some exceptions. There's, of course, the agenda item 10, those will continue to be allowed to continue to the final meeting of CTEL. And there's some of the, let's say, housekeeping agenda items such as 2 and 4. There's also the director's report 9.1. There's the 9.2 and 9.3 satellite regulatory type of issues, both terrestrial and satellite. So this will be really let's say a hard deadline for us to start cranking out as much as we can on our WRC proposals, recommendations, and proposals. After this limit meeting, we will not be able to submit any new proposals on WRC-23 agenda items. We can continue to modify those existing ones if we have them already there at CTEL, but not any new ones. So going then beyond the CTEL 41, you'll see some of the other groups that are meeting. But if you keep going down, Alan, towards the end. Yeah, you'll see the August, this is tentative dates, August 21st final meeting of PCC2, which is traditionally held in Canada, in Ottawa. That has yet to be confirmed. And this will be the final meeting for CTEL to complete its work on WRC-23 agenda items. And then after that meeting concludes, they will then submit any inter-American proposals that have reached consensus to the ITU to be included and considered by the WRC. And then I think we have another workshop there, the third one in September, again, another workshop to just update on what the regional organizations are doing. And then finally, at the very end, we have the three big meetings. We have the radio assembly starting first in mid-November, followed by the WRC. And then at the conclusion of WRC, there's a short CPM 27 meeting, which will organize all of the agenda items for WRC 27 and their assignments and allocations to the various study groups and working parties who will be assigned either responsibility for studies under that agenda item or listing the contributing groups which will assist those responsible groups for WRC 27 studies at the ITUR. That concludes my introduction. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Appreciate it. Ms. Stankiewicz, some questions about the schedule and prep timeline?
Just one clarification. Dante, when you had mentioned the limit meeting and no further agenda items, that is everything with the exception of agenda item 10, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Jane. Yeah, so agenda item 10, there's still agenda item 2 and 4 that are more of housekeeping. There's, I think, also the 9.1 and 9.2 and possibly 9.3 that can also be categorized, sort of given sort of a pass on that limit. But let's say all of your other agenda items, starting with the 1.1 all the way up to 1.19 and agenda item 7, we have to get all of our proposals to our new proposals to CTEL by that limit meeting. After that, certainly we can continue to consider revisions, things like that, to update possibly those existing, but we cannot submit anything after that limit meeting that it's brand new. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I turn it over to Madam Chair, Ms. Paoletta, for other business.
Thank you, Brian. All right. In our category of other business, please remember to email your participation or email your, let Dante and Alan know that you participated in this meeting. And the address, of course, is there on our agenda, WRC-23@fcc.gov. And I guess I'll call for any other comment. It looks like Mr. Weller has his hand up.
Thank you, Tricia. The renewed charter for the WAC became effective on March 31st. The FCC's Office of General Counsel asked that I make the following disclosure at the first WAC meeting following rechartering, which is today's meeting. I want to make the committee aware that in addition to representing the National Association of Broadcasters on the WAC, I also serve on the board of directors of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers Broadcast Technology Society. I do not expect any conflicts of interest, but if any arise, I just make that announcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob, for that. I see our vice chair has his hand up as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Consistent with the ethics guidance, I do represent the Technology Policy Institute here on the WAC. However, I will be submitting for the record an updated disclosures related to my representation of clients here at Wilkinson Barker & Hauer, and I'll submit that into the record.
Thank you very much for that. And our designated federal officer has his hand up, Dante.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So yes, thank you for those disclosures to my WAC colleagues here. I would like to ask if they would like to submit their disclosure statement for the record, that they send it to WRC-23, the address there, as you see on the agenda. Copy me if they'd like, and then we can include that for the official record as part of the WAC meeting number 6 minutes that will get published subsequent to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. And Mr. Keen, I see your hand is up. You might be muted, Ken.
Yes, thank you, Tricia. Likewise, I'd like to register that I have other client interests, but those interests do not represent any conflict with my participation in IGB2. The focus of those other interests is relative to agenda item 1.1, in particular. Also, 1.4 and I think 1.9. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keen. I believe Mr. Marat has his hand up as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to let everyone know that I'm also the Chief Regulatory Officer of the Wireless Innovation Forum that has worked on the specifications for the CBRS ban in the United States. I don't expect any conflict of interest between that role and then the role I'm currently having on the WAC, which is representing SHOW. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash, and thank you for your moonlighting, your extra hard work in our sector. So, all right, if there are no other comments, I will gavel this out and thank you for your participation today and hope you all have a very good week. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.